The Nike Pegasus line of shoes is one of the longest running, most established, iconic nameplates in the running industry. In the past few iterations of the shoe, namely the 39, which I'm holding here, and the 40, we've seen Nike stick to the same formula of delivering a traditional, firmer ride, whereas a lot of the market is moving in a different direction with shoes like the Noble Blast, the Nimbus, and even Nike's own Vomero offering a more comfortable, cushioned experience. So in the Pegasus 41, which I'll throw up on the screen here for you guys, we're seeing Nike move beyond the aesthetic of the 39 and the 40, which changed very little, and into new territory with a new foam, new stack height, and all new design. In this video, I'm gonna break down everything we know about the shoe, give you some projections about how this is going to ride, and I'll end with giving you my thoughts on where this is going to slot into the market and potentially your rotation. Before we get into it today, if you haven't checked out the Running Shoe Matcher tool yet, go to runningshoematcher.com. This is a really cool tool I built for you that matches you with the best shoes for you based on your goals and preferences. So you can go in there, put in what type of shoe you're looking for. If you want a daily trainer like the Pegasus, a race day shoe, or a tempo shoe, whether you like your shoes soft or firm, and we'll match you with the best shoe for you. So it's live right now and it's free. You can check it out at runningshoematcher.com, and I'll put a link in the description below. As I mentioned in the intro, the Pegasus is one of the most iconic running shoes in the industry, but it's also a shoe that stagnated a little bit over the previous few generations. Now, whereas a lot of brands are introducing premium running foams into their daily trainers, and Nike is doing the same thing with the Vomero line, Nike has chosen to keep the Pegasus pretty traditional, pretty firm, and pretty staid. Now, I understand why they're doing that. They want to keep this as their reliable go-to everyday running shoe that's not crazy expensive, because once you start adding in premium materials like ZoomX, the price is gonna go up. As we see with the Vomero, that's priced as $160. So keeping this relatively traditional with relatively little research and development costs allows this to be a profit center for Nike rather than a loss leader. So the Pegasus 39 and 40 were no frills shoes that had a full length bed of this React foam, which is very similar to a traditional EVA. It's not an EVA. Nike doesn't disclose what exact polymer they make the foam out of, but it does ride like an EVA or an EVA blend. It has a heel stack of 33 millimeters and then a 4-foot stack of 23 millimeters for that traditional 10 millimeter drop. The great thing about this shoe compared to a lot of other daily trainers out there is it does have a very comfortable cushioned upper, and it has a huge amount of outsole rubber. Two things which, based on the pictures that we're seeing here, do look like they're going to stay in the 41. Now, the major changes which we're seeing in the 41 are threefold. First one is going to be the overall design system and aesthetic of the shoe. You can see in the 39 and 40 here, even compared to where Nike has gone with the Vomero 17 and the most recent Infinity run, 39 and 40 Pegasus are one generation behind. They're a bit less advanced in their aesthetic, and they aren't up to where the current visual identity is going for Nike. So they're completely overhauling this vibe and giving the shoe a new direction. Second main thing is the midsole component. So this has React. Nike's going to be moving to React X in the midsole of the 41, which I'll get into in a little bit more depth in the midsole section. And then third is the upper, which again, I'll get into in a little more depth in the upper section. All right, guys, diving into the midsole of the Pegasus 41. So they're using a revised React compound called React X here, which is the same exact compound that we've seen in the latest Infinity run. So according to Nike, this React X has a bit higher energy return than the traditional React, which we're seeing in the current Pegasus, and it's also going to be softer and bouncier. Now, I can't comment on weight because we do know that the Infinity run was extremely heavy for a running shoe. That was in the 11-ounce range, so it could be possible that React X is going to add a little bit of weight. It is a denser material, but it should have a little bit more of a cushion protective feel than the current Pegasus. If we take a look at the Pegasus 39 here, this is a pretty flexible platform. It's 23 millimeters up in the forefoot and 33 millimeters up in the back here. And with that 23 millimeters in the front, you do get a fair bit of ground feel coming through the front of the platform. So that's just something to keep in mind with the Pegasus. They like to keep the shoe a little bit lower to the ground and have a little bit more of the ride sensation coming through. Now, compared to the Vomero 17, that one is 30 millimeters up in the forefoot here, and that blends ZoomX with Cushlon. So that is going to be the more cushion protective daily training option. It looks like from these pictures here that Pegasus is going to retain that 10 millimeter drop and that sub 30 millimeter stack height up in the front of the shoe. At this point, it's pretty much a hallmark of the Pegasus to have that 10 millimeter drop. I would be blown away if it doesn't. And from the picture here, you can still see that the heel stack does look pretty significant. Now, a major change that we are seeing in the Pegasus 41 is they're starting to put that foam up on the back of the shoe around the heels. If you look at the Pegasus 39 here, the foam doesn't extend too far up into the upper of the shoe. However, with the Vomero 17, they have used that little bit of a flare of ZoomX. They push it up so it cradles the foot in the back. And what that's gonna do is provide a little bit more heel stability on landings. The Vomero has a very stable and structured heel, and it looks like they're going that direction with all of their neutral road running shoes. This is a pretty big trend in the running industry in general right now. A lot of brands are trying to add some more elements of mild stability into their neutral road running shoes, because as we get more new runners into the fold here, there are more stability issues that pop up. This is gonna help add a little bit more support here if you are a mild overpronator. One thing that I'm really excited to see here is that the geometry of the midsole has changed a little bit. The Pegasus is usually the super flat, super traditional midsole construction, but here they are adding a little bit of a heel rocker out in the back here, and I think they're starting to take notice that that's what a lot of the running shoe world wants. So if you compare this to the Asics Gel Nimbus, the Asics Nova Blast, the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, now not all of those are in the same category as the Nike Pegasus, but those are some of the most successful running shoes over the past few years, and Nike hasn't really caught up to some of the innovations that we've seen, particularly that rocker rolling geometry. So they are adding a little bit more of a rocker here on the Peg 41, particularly in the heel area, which should create a bit of a smoother transition, because the 39 and the 40 do have a little bit of a blocky and stiff feeling when you land on the heel. And then up in the front, there is a little bit more of a rocker than we're seeing in the 39 and the 40 as well. However, there still isn't an aggressively rockered shoe. If you do compare it to something like the Endorphin Speed 3, which is a workout shoe, that one will have much more of that rolling rockered feel underfoot. But this is a step in the right direction for the Peg 41, bringing it into the modern era of running shoes. In terms of the height of the midsole, it's possible that it's going up a few millimeters in the back here, although the way that they've contoured the foam to hold that heel in place does make it possible that it's just a visual affect. I don't have the specs for this shoe yet, but as soon as I get them, I will drop them below in the comments so everyone can see. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on where you fall on the spectrum of things, those two Zoom Air units are going to be staying in the Pegasus 41. Currently, there is a Zoom Air unit up in the heel of the shoe as well as the forefoot. Now, these are not the Zoom Air units like we're gonna find in the Alpha Fly. The Zoom Air units in here are a little bit different. They add more stiffness and rigidity to the shoe. Instead of adding that pop and energy return, they add a little bit more of absorption, actually kind of do the opposite of energy return. They absorb your energy and add an extra layer between your foot and the ground. All right, last thing I wanted to mention about the midsole in the 39 and 40 as well as the 41 is it looks like they're keeping this little ducktail out here on the back. I'm not exactly sure what Nike refers to it as, but this little rear overhang of foam that has also become a trademark, a hallmark, a signature of the Pegasus series, that is going to stay with the 41, although the midsole sculpting in general is going to the new aesthetic and to that new visual identity. That little spoiler out in the back and the sculpting throughout the platform is going to stay the same. All right, guys, heading up to the upper of the shoe. As I mentioned, they have made some changes to the upper. Now, if we take a look at the upper of the 39 here, they did revise it a little bit of the 40, but one of the key good features is all the padding around the back. So that's something that's going to be staying in the Pegasus 41, in addition to this little heel collar and flare out in the back. So there'll be some nice structure around here and padding in the rear of the shoe, which is a great thing to see in a daily trainer. I love it when shoes go for comfort over weight savings if they are for daily shoes. A big issue I'm having with the Boston 12 right now as a training shoe is that the upper is wildly unstructured and wildly uncomfortable for no reason. They could have added half an ounce of weight there just to add a little bit more padding and comfort in the upper in the Boston 12. But what we're seeing with the Pegasus 41 years is that they're retaining the comfort and not just going to cut weight, as we've seen some brands doing recently, namely you, Adidas. Now, the Pegasus 41 is also going to have those soft laces out in front, that padded tongue for a nice and secure, comfortable lockdown, and they are going to retain the lacing system we see in the 40. Compared to my 39 here, they got rid of the fly wire laces that we see here with these little loops. In the 40, they didn't have that. Looks like in the 41, they're also going to be going with no wires and just stringing those laces straight through the hole soles of the upper. In terms of the fit here, there will be a wide option. They always offer the Pegasus in wide, so if you have a wider foot and used the Nike wide shoes in the past, you should be in luck here. But the standard fit of the Pegasus is going to be a little bit more on the narrow side. However, in the past few versions of their road running shoes that they've come out with, looking at the Vomero and some of the others, they have widened up and lengthened their last just a little bit. So it's possible like they're adding more stability into their shoes. They're also making the uppers a little bit more roomy and forgiving. So you might be able to do with a standard width of the shoe if you don't have a super wide foot. I have been able to get a great lockdown in the Pegasus 39 here, so I don't think that's an area you need to worry about. Nike does a really good job with their uppers on their training shoes, unlike Adidas, who I have had some issues with recently. So I think no matter if you have a wide foot or a narrow foot, you should be getting a great lockdown in that Pegasus 41. All right guys, heading down to the outsole of the shoe. Now they are going to be retaining that full outsole rubber coverage that we're seeing on the 39 and the 40. And if you look here and compare it to what we're seeing in the 41, they're actually adding some more rubber onto the shoe and going with that waffle knit vibe that we're seeing in the Vomero 17. Now the outsole of the Peg 41 actually looks pretty similar to the pattern that we're seeing on the Vaporfly 3 here. If you can see how there's this waffle outsole where there's these little tiny nubs up on the forefoot of the shoe, that's what we're going to be getting all throughout the outsole of that Pegasus 41. However, it's going to be using the layout that's more similar to the Vomero 17, where we see that J-shaped piece out in the back and then a nice full coverage out in the front. Unlike the Vaporfly, the Pegasus is an extremely durable shoe with a really thick outsole that should not be any different here. That's something that the Pegasus has always been great at, and based on these pictures, it looks like you'll still be able to get 500, 600, 700, whatever your target number is from a Pegasus, you should be able to get that same number from the Pegasus 41. In terms of who the shoe is going to be best for, this is still a neutral, moderately cushioned daily trainer. So if you've liked the Pegasus in the past, if you like a slightly firmer, not super max cushion feeling shoe, then the Pegasus is still going to deliver for you in the 41. I do project that it's going to be a little bit softer and bouncier than we've seen in the 39 and the 40 due to that React X foam. So if you haven't loved the Pegasus in the past, maybe you're one of those folks who switched from the Pegasus to the Nova Blast, then you might want to give the 41 another shot, because I do think they've spec'd this against the Nova Blast to win back some of their old school fans. Now, if you do have major stability needs, or you only like running in super cushioned shoes, then Nike has the Zoom structure or the Vomero for you. The structure is going to be there if you need some overpronation support, and the Vomero 17 is going to be there if you want a super cushion feel. I personally am looking forward to picking up the Vomero 17 soon as my cushion daily trainer to pair with the 1080-13 from New Balance, which I've been using as a nice recovery running shoe. But once the Pegasus 41 comes out next year, I'll definitely be picking up a pair, probably replace one of those two shoes in my rotation, because the Pegasus always has a place in my rotation. In terms of a release date for the Pegasus 41, Run Rumor on Twitter says they are coming May 2024. If I hear anything else, I will certainly update you, but Run Rumors on Twitter seems legit. I'll throw the tweet up for you to see. All right, guys, there you have it. There's the preview of the Nike Pegasus 41. Let me know if you are going to pick up the shoe. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for liking and subscribing, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.